Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. I'm really sorry for the delay for chapters 9 and 10. But before we get started, let's kind of talk about what happened in chapter 8. Tristan and his family went to the library and Tristan met a friend. And can you guys remember what his name is? His name is Josh, and Josh ended up telling Tristan about all these different books, and he actually even sent home a book with Tristan for Tristan to read. So when Tristan got home, he ended up finding an email from Charlie, and Tristan doesn't seem too happy with Charlie with this email. I think Tristan is wanting some more emails coming from Charlie, but Charlie isn't emailing Tristan back as much. So we're going to go ahead and start with chapter 9. I want you to think about a spot in your house, and I want you to go there. This spot can be somewhere where you think is quiet. This could be your bedroom or a step on your staircase or your couch. Somewhere you are able to take your device and kind of go to this spot and enjoy listening me read to you, okay? So, chapter 9. The day after we went to the library, it was so cold I can see my breath. I'm not talking about outside. I'm talking about in my room, still in bed. I ran to the window to close it, but it wouldn't budge. Obviously, part of a new plan by the purple demon to freeze us out. I shoved my pillow in the window, layered up, and let myself down to the ladder through the hole in the floor. Mom was baking bread. We never had homemade bread before we got to Petersville, but then Mom figured out it took her almost as long to drive to the nearest bakery as it did to make her own. At first, she just made simple stuff, like sourdough and whole wheat, but soon we were having sweet potato rolls, pumpkin biscuits, and hazelnut scones with homemade peach and strawberry butters. That sounds really, really good. None of us were surprised when she announced she decided to serve a different homemade bread and butter every day when she opened the restaurant. Cornbread? I said as I came into the kitchen. Close, Mom said. She and Janine were already sitting at the table eating breakfast, even though where no windows open in there, it almost as cold as it had been in the attic. The purple demon is a mad genius. Is the heat working? I said. I think so. Mom handed me a plate of scrambled eggs and a thick slice of steaming bread with apple butter. Houses are always cooler than apartments. It's much healthier. When it's too warm, it's the perfect environment for bacteria to flourish. That's why people are always sick in the city. Do you guys know what flourish means? Think about if you're going to plant a flower and you water it and it flourishes, what happens? It grows, right? So that's what kind of it's talking about. The bacteria is going to grow and spread. Who was always sick? I said. Don't remember when we all got strep last winter? Yeah, so don't people get strep in Petersville? I'm sure they do, but it doesn't travel as fast because the bacteria can't move as well through the cold. Did you just make that up? Because it really sounds like you just made it up as you were saying it. Look, I may not completely understand the science behind it, but I know it's better not to keep your house too warm. Too warm maybe, but how about at all warm? I mean, look at Janine. Janine was sitting at the kitchen table with a sleeping bag around her bottom half, a bathrobe around her top half, and a ski mask. She had a ski mask on in the kitchen. That was probably funny to look at. Anyways, I don't mind, she said. It keeps me awake. I read 765 pages since yesterday. That's a lot of pages. That's great, honey, Mom said. Sometimes my mother's completely clueless. The only reason Janine was able to read that much was because, unlike me, she still couldn't sleep. Whenever I passed her room in the middle of the night on the way to the bathroom, she was up reading by flashlight. Where's Dad? I asked. Upstairs. He's really excited about this new idea he has for a pulley system to schlep stuff up the stairs. Oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. I think so, and definitely better than the intercom idea. I really do think you need to be a licensed electrician to do that kind of wiring. Now that the unpacking was done, Dad had a lot of free time and he'd been spending it on these home improvement ideas he kept coming up with. Some actually weren't half bad, but all required skills he hadn't picked up at the investment bank. Eventually, he would be helping with the business side of the restaurant, but since there was no business side yet, the only way to help was by eating, which could only take up so much time. Zoe and I are headed to Krellin. Any takers? Mom said. Janine shook her head without looking up from her book. No thanks, I said. Can I bake something? What were you thinking? Molten chocolate cake. I had to show the woman at the general store I'm worthy of her donut recipe. Mom laughed. Sure, go ahead. Just remember to turn off the oven when you're done and make a double batch so there's some for tonight. I'd settled on molten chocolate cake for 3 reasons. First, I didn't know much about Winnie's taste, but I thought I could be pretty sure she liked chocolate. She was weird, but I didn't think she'd have gone to the trouble of creating a recipe for chocolate cream donuts when she didn't like chocolate. Second, I never met anyone who didn't flip for my mother's molten chocolate cake. Third, other than the chocolate chip cookies, I'd had more practice making it than anyone else. Well, that's weird because when Winnie said to make something, I thought Miss Plumley thought that he was going to make some donuts, but apparently I was wrong. He's going to make molten chocolate cake. Alrighty, so let's see how this is going to turn out. As soon as Mom and Zoe left, I turned on the oven and took out the ingredients. A saucepan for melting the chocolate, and ramekins, the little cups we use for making mini cakes. You have to make mini molten cakes because the cake is so gooey. A big one will fall apart. I learned that the hard way. I was especially careful not to burn the chocolate because, in case you don't know, burned chocolate tastes like metal and looks like dog food. And we didn't have enough to make another batch. I was also super careful measuring out the sugar and flour. Really, a clump more or less won't ruin anything, but I needed these to be perfect. 12 minutes in the oven is usually just enough to get the crackly shell on top that lets you know the cakes are done. That day, because I kept checking and letting cold air in, it almost took 20. As soon as the cakes were cool enough, I popped them out of the cups and tasted one. The hot, gooey center, more batter than cake, oozed onto my tongue. Shazam! Taste bud, happy dance all around my mouth. Perfect. So perfect that when I finished eating one, I had to go into the living room to keep myself from eating another. Can I have one? Janine called from the kitchen. She hadn't said a word the whole time I'd been cooking. No, I called back. I hadn't forgotten about her telling my parents that donuts couldn't be a project after I said her project sounded cool, which it didn't. The day my parents told us we were moving to Petersville, it was as versus them for the first time ever, and I thought it would stay that way, at least for a little while, but Janine had already gone back to her own side, the one that only has room for her. I can't have just one, she shouted. Therefore my project. I thought your project was donuts. It is, but I need to give a molten chocolate cake to Winnie to get the donut recipe. Was that English? I just have to give one to somebody, okay? I yelled. Come on. They're for dessert tonight, too. That still leaves 5. Fine. Have one. I flopped onto the couch. She couldn't have let up until I gave in, so what was the point of going another 20 rounds, especially when I didn't actually have a reason, or at least not one I'd tell her. I pulled some blankets over me and started reading both hands. The book Josh had made me take out of the library. I wonder if he's going to like the book both hands. I think he is. I think he's going to like it more than he thinks he's going to. What do you think? I don't know how long I was sitting there, but before I knew it, I'd read almost 40 pages. Normally, I don't get through more than a couple without thinking about what we're having for dinner or checking where the chapter ends, but I'd been too focused on whether Jack, he was the kid in the book, was going to make the state swimming finals to think about anything else. Jack had just won regionals when Dad came through the living room carrying his brand new toolbox. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Fixing the leak in your room. I checked it out the other day. Guy at the hardware store says it shouldn't be too complicated. Just give me a hand getting a ladder out of the shed." "Sure," I said. When I came back, Janine was lying in my spot on the couch. "It's warmer here," she said. "It's warmer there because I was sitting there." I ripped one of the blankets I'd been using out from under her. Then I got my book and sat to read in one of the armchairs. Before long, we heard banging above us. "What's that?" Janine said. "Dad." "On the roof? He's fixing the leak in my room. Do you know how long that's going to take? I'm trying to get some work done here." I'm pretty sure he feels the same way. She stuck her tongue out at me, though the mouth hole in the ski mask. She went back to her book. I could tell she wasn't getting much reading done, though, because after every bang she looked up and gave the ceiling a dirty look. If you want to know the truth, I couldn't tune out the noise either, but I knew it would drive Janine bonkers to think I could when she couldn't, so I went right on pretending. After a while, she slammed comforters of the northeast shut, unzipped the bottom of the sleeping bag, stuck out her feet, and stood up. "That's it." Then, still wearing the sleeping bag, bathrobe, and ski mask, she slid her feet into her boots and hopped out the back door. Almost immediately, the noises stopped. Then came a loud thud that shook the house in a scream. I jumped up and ran out the door. Outside, Dad was laying on the ground with his face white. Uh-oh. "What happened?" I said. "It's not my fault," Janine said, kneeling beside him. "I dropped the ground on the other side. Are you okay?" Dad sat up slowly. "He's fine," Janine said. "Right, Dad? You're fine." "I think so," he said, not really sounding convinced. "Just my head." Janine pulled off her ski mask and grabbed my father's hand. "Your pulse is pretty fast." "I'm okay." "Can you get up?" I said. "He shouldn't move," Janine said. "What if he has a spinal injury?" "You just said he's fine. Now he has a spinal injury?" "You know, guys, I really think I'm okay to go inside." "See?" I said. "Fine, but don't blame me if he's paralyzed," Janine said. We helped my father to his feet and slowly led him into the house. Janine made him lie on the couch, got some ice, and told him to put it on his head. "You sure you're okay, Dad?" I asked. "Huh?" he said, like I'd just woken him up. "You okay?" I said again. Something about his eyes didn't look right. "Yeah," he said, but he still didn't sound sure. "Just my head." "Do you know what you hit it on?" I was worried that maybe he hit a rock, but there wasn't any blood. "Hit it?" "Yeah, when you fell," I reminded him. Now I was beginning to worry. "Oh," he squinted like he was trying to see something far away. "Yeah, you were on the roof trying to fix the leak, remember?" Janine said. "Oh, yeah," he said, even though it was obvious by now that he did it. Dad, why don't you just keep that ice on your head? We'll be right back," I said. Then I grabbed Janine's wrist and pulled her into the kitchen with me. "He must have a concussion. Should we call an ambulance?" Janine nodded. For once, she didn't seem to know what to say. I turned to the wall behind me where a phone should have hung and would have hung if we were still at home. But this wall was blank. The landline still hadn't been put in. Janine ran out of the room. She was back a minute later with my father's cell phone and handed it to me. For a second, I stared at her. Blown away, she didn't want to make the call herself. Then I dialed 911 and waited for it to ring. Nothing. No sound at all. I looked at the screen. Not even one bar. I showed Janine the phone. No reception. "Is anybody there?" my father called. I poked my head through the doorway to the living room. "Yeah, Dad, we're here." He sat up. "I think I hit my head." "Oh, yeah? Do you remember what happened?" Silence. "Okay, then why don't you just keep that ice on it?" "Oh, okay," he said and lay back down. It was like talking to a little kid, a not-so-smart little kid, and that kid was my father. This was bad. Janine dropped into a chair and began gnawing her fingernails. Tears were running down her cheeks. "What if he's bleeding into his brain? He could be having a stroke." "He's not having a stroke. You can't even talk if you're having a stroke. At least I didn't think you could. It's just a concussion. People get concussions all the time. Connor got one last summer in Little League. He was totally knocked out, and a couple of days later, he was fine. But this could be different. Dad could have ruptured an artery. Brain cells could be dying every second. Everything okay in there? Dad called. Everything's fine, I called back. Hey, do you know what this ice is for? Your head, Janine and I both yelled. Oh, yeah, thanks. See, wept Janine, snot boing coming out from her nose. He's dying. He has a headache. He's not dying. How do you know? I didn't actually know. My best guess was that he wasn't dying, but the problem with Janine always acting like she knows everything is that sometimes you believe her. So, what do you want to do? There's that clinic in town. How would we get there? We could take the car. Dad can't drive like that. Not Dad. You. It's not far, and it's basically a straight line. Are you crazy? I can't drive. Had Dad somehow also hit Janine's head on his way down? You can't get a license or anything, but you can drive. I've seen you play Speedway. You are a great driver. That's a video game. This is a real road with real cars. We're not talking about rush hour in Times Square. How many other cars will even be on the road? Hello? Anybody there? My father called from the living room. This time Janine went, Yeah, Dad, we're here. I have a nasty headache. Yeah, Dad, we know. You fell off the roof. Just keep the ice on. Then she went to the front door, took my father's keys from the hook, and put them on the table in front of me. You really want to leave him there asking the same question every 5 minutes till Mom gets home? People get concussions all the time, and don't lie, but Janine had really freaked me out with all that stuff about ruptured arteries and brain cells dying. Okay, let's go, but I'm not taking the car. So, how are we getting there? I have an idea. Alright, so that's the end of chapter 9. So, I wonder how they're getting there. Like, I have some ideas in my mind, but, I mean, those are probably not right. So, I want you to think about how they're getting there. Are they getting there by a bike? Are they getting there by a train? What do you think? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and end this, and then we'll start on chapter 10, okay?